Welcome back to the inaugural return, first of the 15th, welfare check edition of the Miss on Point podcast. I am your illustrious host, Eric Mathis. With me, as always, Dr. Joe Bellon, and a new member to the podcast, the one and only Sean Ridley.
What's going on, world?
That's Master Sean Ridley, not Doctor yet, but
yeah, get it right. Come on.
Right.
But it's crap master thesis is a better question.
The crap master thesis, a Paul Barman reference for the Missed on Points audience.
There we go. We're starting off with a bang. NFL season makes no sense. The Atlanta Falcons with the illustrious Matt Ryan, they are currently 6-0. Bellon, this is your time to come to eat and grow. I apparently have forsaken the Atlanta people, and because of that, they have blessed me with Matt Ryan as MVP. What's going on?
Well, obviously, you need to shut the hell up about Matt Ryan for a second. Now, I will give you this. Until he actually wins a playoff game, there's only so much crow you actually have to eat. But you did go completely crazy for a little while there and start talking about how we'd rather have Tim Tebow, who, as last I checked, was not having a great season.
Listen,
and that was clearly insane. But Ryan's playing real well.
With Tim Tebow, you get a quarterback, a running back, a punt blocker. I think a tight end and a water boy. Although that's five players.
You forgot Team Chaplin.
Team Chaplin. There you go.
I don't think he's been helping out the Jets too much, though. So,
really, what do you think about the current NFL season? What has surprised you so far? Clearly, the 49ers have amazed us with a 5-2 record. With the
We're on pace to do worse than we did last season. Here, this is the thing I'll say about the Falcons. They've had two very disappointing games over these last 2 weeks. I don't see them being undefeated for long.
No.
All right, like, the NFC South, though it is not a great division, I'm not trying to see Drew Brees at any point, and I don't think the Falcons have it in them just yet. I mean, like you said, Bellon, they had to win a playoff game, and they might have to still show I don't want to say they need to show more defense, but you got to be able to lock somebody down at some point. I don't think the Falcons have it.
Well, we got to learn to defend the run.
Yeah. No, but in terms of surprises, we were talking about this earlier. I'm surprised that the Vikings are winning football games.
Yes.
All right, they beat the snot out of the 49ers. And, I mean, what are they, 5-2 now? Adrian Peterson's ACL was ripped the other way last time I saw it. And now all of a sudden he's running like he was before the injury. It doesn't make any sense.
Listen, I have told everyone, that's Purple Jesus. You respect Purple Jesus. Okay? You just don't. Not only does he
Black Jesus we're going to have in the NFL.
So what?
How many Black Jesuses we're going to have in the NFL? All right.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. There are several Black Jesuses in the NFL. No, the biggest surprise for me is everything that's happening kind of in the AFC. I'm not going to lie. I was on the bandwagon that the Pats would lose maybe one game when I saw their schedule.
When did that bandwagon start up?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that bandwagon.
It's the same bandwagon that hates Matt Ryan. Get on the bandwagon.
It's a shitty bandwagon.
Like 3 players from the Patriots defense.
Yeah.
How many?
3.
That are not currently ESPN analysts.
Also true.
Tom Brady.
Offense is their best defense, for sure.
Yes, Rob Gronkowski. Wes Welker. Yeah. But no, seriously. Raise your hand if you thought that the New York Jets, after 6 weeks, would be a game out of first place.
I wouldn't have thought that was beyond the pale. Like, I didn't think that was going to be the case, but...
You love Tebow.
No, I honestly thought they would suck. But I wasn't on board for how awesome the Pats were. They don't have a defense. Vince
Wilfork, that's one.
The fact that Belichick basically had to be forced to play Wes Welker. I mean, that's nuts. That's nuts.
That is the sign of stupidity.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that. I think Sean's right that the Vikings are definitely one of the biggest surprises. The fact that the Cardinals have won any games is kind of shocking to me. And I have to say, the other story that you have to talk about, and since we're Falcons fans, we don't like to say this out loud, but there's no one who thought the Saints would be this bad at this point. No. Stop raising your hand, Mathis. We can go back and check.
I'm sorry.
We can go back and check the tape.
Who called the upset special?
You didn't call it before that. You've gotten yourself confused with Bomani Jones. Which I understand why you would want to do.
Where's the belt?
Yeah, exactly. Where's
Discount double check.
where's the pinky ring is the question. But like,
Oh, yeah.
you didn't call that. I didn't call that. I said they would be 9-7 at best. But I think they could be a lot worse than that. That's to me the big surprise in our division.
In the words of our illustrious leader of the free world, check the transcripts. I did say that the Saints would be at probably 7-9. They would not have a winning record. Listen. Bomani Jones stole my line. I told you, Sean Payton. Look, if Sean Payton is such a great head coach, you are not better without him. There's no way.
Well, and
Sean Payton right now is coach of the year.
They had no defense anyway.
Right, Sean Payton ain't tackling nobody.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right, and they aren't getting tackles. They aren't covering deep, and they damn sure ain't stopping the run. All right.
No, they don't believe in defense in New Orleans. You know, it's like Michael Vick and dog leash laws. You know, they didn't believe in that. So
I got too many dogs for these leashes.
How about how bad the Eagles are too? That's the other thing that is a very surprising outcome for me. I didn't think they'd suck this much.
What is their record? 3-3?
Yeah, and they look awful. They are an ugly 3-3.
Yeah,
what's an ugly 3-3? It's like dating a girl who's like a 7. Is that what we're saying?
No, don't even go there.
No.
6.5?
No, I'm married.
It's like dating a girl who's a 6.5 and telling your homies about it. And being proud. That's where they are right now.
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
You know what I think is worse though? The Eagles can still make the playoffs. Explain to me why Cam Newton cries so much and wears a cashmere sweater in Carolina. That team's terrible.
He's on that purple drink.
No, why you got to be on purple drink? Because he stole laptops from Florida? Neil Blackman?
Damn, he went there. No, Cam Newton is, he's not having the best season. He's nowhere near where he was last year, but he is also getting very little help. They are not running the ball at all, and they have Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams, they went out and got Tolbert, and Cam Newton is still their leading rusher. That makes zero sense to me for somebody who's supposed to be their franchise.
They got a lot of coaching problems.
I think they assumed that all they had to do was throw the ball to each other.
Well, yeah, they just fired the GM.
Yeah, there's a lot of team coaching problems. Philly is one of them.
Yep.
What's that?
Yeah, Philly's one of them. The Saints, obviously, are having coaching problems. I couldn't believe that the Cardinals won any games. I think they're coming back down to earth now, but it was kind of shocking that they did well earlier in the season. The other thing is that from a fantasy perspective, this year is completely effed. Like, all of your traditional fantasy powerhouses, except for Adrian Peterson, have been playing awfully, and every week it's some other random player. I actually had a week where I uttered the words, I should have started Alex Smith, which is not something you should ever say in a fantasy world.
Look, even 49ers fans are like, I would never utter the phrase, we should have started Alex Smith.
My first drop this year was Michael Crabtree.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I got fooled by that twice too. Yeah, well, somebody's got to catch the ball for the 49ers.
Yeah, yes, that's how everyone is. Someone has to catch the football. Like, someone? Like, seriously. You know what? We're missing one other big news story, and that's the Broncos. You know, they were supposed to be kind of challenging in the AFC West. They don't start playing until the second half, and they're always down. Do you expect for them to challenge for the AFC title? Because I don't.
The AFC title or just the AFC West?
What does that mean to challenge for the AFC title?
To have a chance to get to the AFC Championship.
I don't think they can beat the Texans.
Yeah, but
no.
But you don't want to see them in the playoffs. You don't want to see Peyton Manning in the playoffs.
No, that's Peyton. We're talking about Peyton, not Eli.
No, I think this incarnation of Peyton. I mean, you don't want to see the team that has the ridiculous comebacks play you in the playoffs. I think the Texans would dominate them. I think a team that had a really strong running game and a good defense is hard for the Broncos to play. But and that's definitely the Texans.
You don't think Brady shreds them again?
No.
Why not?
So,
I mean, I think Peyton gets better as the season goes on. I think their defense hasn't played as well this year as it did last year, and at some point it's going to start. I mean, I don't think that they will be as bad the next time they play the Pats, if they play the Pats again, as they will the first time. I think they get better as the year goes on. Maybe I'll be wrong. But
2 questions for Sean. Sean, Are you related to Stephen Ridley? And what are your thoughts on the Broncos?
Oh, God, I wish I was related to Stephen Ridley because I would take that check any day of the week. But my thoughts on the Broncos is I think they have a pretty decent route to the AFC West. I think that between the Raiders and the Chargers, that they can do whatever they need to make it there. And then, like you were saying earlier, Bellon, once the playoff starts, it's anybody's game. You know, you don't want to see Peyton Manning. He has way more experience. The Texans aren't the greatest team in the league. Like, I understand they might be the best team in the AFC. I understand that this league is not, I mean, this year isn't as strong as other years. But, yeah, I see the Texans being beatable. And from that, like, the Broncos could make a run if they do it right. I mean, they also have great coaching. Like, John Fox isn't a slouch.
Before we get to everyone's top 5 power rankings, let's talk about the 2 rookie quarterbacks that are making an impact. You've got Andrew Luck and you've got RG3. RG3's team is actually in contention to make a playoff run. We don't see Luck. How do you feel about those 2 rookie quarterbacks? And if you want to throw in some of the other rookie quarterbacks, Tannehill, et cetera, go right ahead.
RG3 in the beginning of the season so far has been one of the most exciting players.
Yep.
He fought Eli Manning to a duel, and absent a 77-yard pass, they probably would have won that game, and they would have been where they needed to be in the NFC East to make a challenge at that because, yeah, the Cowboys stink, the Eagles stink, and though the Giants beat the crap out of the 49ers, I think that they're still inconsistent, or they have that thing now where they know they can win a game whenever and they'll just turn it on. And so with that, you know, they can get behind. And if you catch them at the right time, I don't know. Either way, though, RG3 has been able to protect himself, sans that one hit.
With a spoon?
Huh?
With a spoon?
Yes. He's been able to protect himself. He's been able to make smart passes, been able to make deep passes. And I'll admit it, I haven't seen much of Andrew Luck. I mean, it's Indianapolis. They ain't showing me those games.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those drafts that you look back on. You know, it's not as deep as the '83 draft, but you'll look back on it like people did with the '83 draft, and you'll say, not that there was this one quarterback to come out of the draft, but there were 2. I don't think it's a debate anymore about which one of these guys will be good. They're both going to be good. The thing that Luck is going to be a great pocket passer, and he's got a little bit of mobility. But the thing I like about RG3 is how smart he is. You know, he's got great physical skills. He's a mature kid, but he's smart. You know, he's a lot smarter than Cam Newton, and he's got a lot more physical durability than Michael Vick does. And he seems to have a work ethic and know what to say in the right circumstances. So I'm encouraged as long as he learns how to slide well before the linebackers start coming to lay the wood on him, which I think he did figure that out after Witherspoon clocked him good. Now he's a smart guy. That's the thing everyone forgets about RG3 is they look at him and they think Cam Newton, they think Michael Vick, but this guy is really smart, and I think it's why he'll be better than either one of them in the long term.
I'll just play devil's advocate, but I think they'll both be great. I think they'll both equally be great. I think RG3 is what we kind of thought or wish McNabb would have been. He's got a lot of those qualities when he kind of first started.
That's a good comparison.
But here's what I'll say about Andrew Luck, and it has nothing to do with the players themselves. It's the structure of winning. One structure is Daniel Snyder and Shanahan, and he's the smartest girl in the bar, and that seems to have not worked, and God knows when. The Colts have had a culture of winning for a long time and know how to put a team together. I think if I was putting money on who would win a Super Bowl first, it's probably Luck because of the infrastructure around him. But they're both going to be amazing quarterbacks.
I mean, the thing that's going to happen is that both teams are going to have to go through some serious reconstruction before any of them actually makes a run in the playoffs. And so it's hard to determine who's going to be what, who's going to win a Super Bowl first because, yeah, I think Luck might have a better chance at it because they might take this season and get some serious draft picks for next year.
Well, and the question you have to ask, I don't know about the Shanahan question. My question is, can the Redskins consistently draft well? You know, because the Colts have proven they can. And the Redskins, except for the RG3 pick, don't seem to have done a great job of that. It hasn't been their philosophy. They've been building through free agency in a very unsuccessful way. But we'll see if they can draft well.
Before we get to everyone's top 5, you got to remember something. The Redskins gave up a hill of picks to get RG3.
Yep.
They lost, I think, a bunch of first-round picks. So, you know, They've got to get a little lucky. Okay. I don't know if y'all have taken some time to figure out who your top 5 teams are in the NFL. Joe, do you know who you got?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start with Joe. We'll go to Sean, and then we'll finish with myself. Joe, who are your top 5 teams starting with number 5?
Number 5, I think you have to pick the Giants. They have to be in this discussion until they prove that they're not going to be good down the stretch. Number 4, I would say the Patriots. In spite of my doubting of their ability on the defensive side of the ball, I think they haven't played their best ball yet. And you got to think that Belichick's got something up his sleeve. Number 3 is a tough pick. This is really where you start getting... I feel like I'm not able to be objective, but at this point, given what I've seen, I would say the Atlanta Falcons are at number 3. Just because I won't put us higher until I feel like we can defend the run on a regular basis. The last time I checked, and we may be slightly better than this now, but the last time I checked, we were 31st in the league at run defense. Number 2, the Bears. I feel like they're a solid team. They're a pretty balanced team, and as long as Cutler can not be Cutler, then they'll have a good run this year. And I think the Texans still have to be the best team in the league until they prove somebody wrong.
So you've got the Texans, even though they got housed by the Packers as the number 1 team.
Yep, I do.
Sean, who do you got?
So I decided to cheat a little bit, and I went to the ESPN Power Rankings just to see where teams line up. At number 5, they have the Bears. I don't agree with that at all. I would actually put the Packers there. I don't trust Brandon Marshall and Jay Cutler. I've seen them be very inconsistent, and I don't like that old defense playing as well as they have over these last few weeks. They are completely shutting teams down, getting turnovers, and making it pretty easy for them. And though I know the old adage that defense doesn't go anywhere throughout the season, I just don't trust it. If you look at the Ravens, they are falling off completely, all because of injuries and old age. So I'm putting the Packers at number 5. I'm looking at the 49ers here at number 4. Homer. I'm sorry. Ponder. Thank you. We recovered from the unfortunate game that was with the Giants. We beat up on a Seahawks team who proved that they could beat the Patriots. And it's hard to say that we're necessarily, going to go anywhere because it's Alex Smith or bust. So we'll see what happens, at least for now. At number 3, I'll go ahead and put the Giants. Eli Manning is a robot that somehow throws touchdown passes only in the 4th quarter. He has whatever Tebow's drinking. 2, I'll put
hear that, Joe? Tebow.
I can make some comments about what I think Tebow's drinking in New York City, but we'll stay out of that.
Oh, God. Number 2, I got the Falcons. Until you beat them, they're still going to be up there. They found a way to eke out games, and come playoff time, that's something that's always important. You already mentioned that, Joe. And then, number 1, I got to put those Texans. Even absent, like, a huge upset. Not even an upset against the Packers. The Packers just finally turned it on one week. The Texans have played the best football in all the different areas. They're the most consistent team. Aaron Foster's kind of a tank monster. Can't deny it.
All right. I guess it requires me to come in and be a little controversial and to shine the light of truth.
How controversial can you be? Are you going to put the Jets in the top 5? I'm waiting for this.
No, I'm not stupid.
Let's put the Patriots at 1.
No. Here's my top 5, and I'll give you my reasoning. At number 5 is the Houston Texans. And here's why I have the Texans number 5. If the AFC is as weak as I think it is, and your first real challenge was against Green Bay, and you get housed, and then the next week you basically stomp out a decrepit and old Baltimore Ravens team, I really have some questions about you. They lose the middle linebacker. I can't think of his name. I know J.J. Watts is awesome. I know Arian Foster is awesome. But Joe can speak to this. Their passing game, not very awesome. And I don't know what's wrong with Andre Johnson and the quarterback situation, but my lasting image of that team is them getting housed by Green Bay, which tells me that Green Bay has a gear in them that Houston can't match. Because all these teams we're talking about are going to make the playoffs. The question is, at the end of the day, at least for me, who do I think can beat who? Now, Houston can get to the Super Bowl the easiest because they probably have the easiest schedule of having to go through the AFC. But I think right now, I've got Houston 5. I've got the Bears 4 because I don't think that team can play on a fast track. That defense is old, but when you get them at Soldier Field, they can do what they did last night. But they barely beat the Lions, even though they probably dominated that game. I don't trust Cutler either. I trust Marshall a little bit more. The defense is good, but, you know, if the defense has an off night, bye-bye, sayonara. At number 3, I'm going to go with Green Bay. I'm going to go with the best quarterback there. Primarily the reason I'm going with Green Bay is because when they get angry, they are really, really good. And when they're kind of focused, they're pretty scary. And the last couple of weeks, they've kind of shown me that. So I'll go with Green Bay.
Woodson's out for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Woodson, what level of importance is Woodson to that team?
Start corner.
Yeah, he's like one of their only good
He's
defensive
guy?
players.
He's a safety right now.
He's one of the 3 guys you can name on that defense.
Sorry.
Okay, but here's what I'll say about. I mean, you got B.J. Raji, you got Clay Matthews.
You can only name him because of the commercial. That shit does not count.
But here's the other thing you got to understand: Green Bay has beaten both Chicago and they've beaten Houston. So I've seen them compete against those 2 teams. They've won those games.
All right, I'm waiting for the top.
Chicago game was nothing to be excited about, but yeah.
That's probably true, but a win is a win. Which brings me to the Atlanta Falcons at number 2.
A team that's undefeated, number 2.
Yes, undefeated number 2.
None of us have put them at number 1. I would just like to point that out.
A win is a win. Yeah.
The reason that I have the Falcons number 2 is it's important to show that you can win games and be resourceful. Look, Matt Ryan's arm strength has gotten better, but this doesn't mean he'll be great in the playoffs. But this team kind of feels a little different in some areas.
Stop bearing the lead.
Listen.
Which bad team are you putting at number 1? I'm sitting here looking at the standings.
Hold on. So, and I also think that I think the passing game for Atlanta is going to be pretty good. The number 1 team in the NFL, in my opinion, is the New York Giants. That pass rush, Eli Manning, who is a top 3-4 quarterback in the league, behind that kind of a defense. Listen, Sean said it earlier. When they want to turn it on, they turn it on. And Sean saw this up close and personal. They ran over a 49ers team that looked like the bullies of the NFL, and they made them look like nothing. At the end of the day, if I was putting my money on a team to win one football game, that's the order I would pick those teams, and that's how I pick my ranking.
All right, fair enough. I want to point out one thing. Each one of us had a kind of a controversial omission. I didn't put the 49ers in. Sean, am I right that you didn't put? Who did you not put in? The Patriots?
No, I didn't put in the Patriots, but I didn't put in the Bears.
Okay, and Eric doesn't put in the Patriots, but none of us even thought about the number 2 ranked team in the AFC, which is the Baltimore Ravens.
No, that team's dead.
Really, after one game that they looked awful in.
Listen.
No, they lost. Go for it. Give them the list.
Ray Lewis is not Ray Lewis, but the cornerback they had was the best player on their team. They're getting Suggs back, but he's not going to be prepared. What you saw out of Houston versus Baltimore is something you're going to see a lot of from good teams. Pittsburgh can do that. They're going to come on. If they play Broncos, they can do that. There are a lot of teams that are going to house Baltimore, and unfortunately, injuries are why they're not in my top 5.
Well, it's funny because at the beginning of the season, I really, really thought that Baltimore was going to be a really good team this year, and the reason I thought they were going to be a really good team this year is Flacco played really well in the playoffs, and I thought that was him turning the corner, and he really was going to be an elite quarterback, and that hasn't happened at all. And I agree with both of you. You'll notice I didn't put the Ravens in my top 5 either, but I think it's amazing that there's a team that a bunch of people picked to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year, and all of a sudden it looks like you can't even think of them winning the Super Bowl anymore.
No. I will say this. I agonized with the 49ers only because it's just Alex Smith. Like, I don't know. Like, that is my thing. Like, I understand they can be a top 5 team. That defense is legit. The Giants game might be an aberration. But good God, it's Alex Smith. Like, that's the only thing I can say. You've never heard the phrase Alex Smith and Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Well, that doesn't mean anything. There's a bunch of people that haven't won the Super Bowl. He played pretty well in the playoffs last year.
He did.
I mean, he wasn't the reason they lost at the end.
No, I think it was the punt returner or something?
Yeah, no, Kyle Williams. Wait, I'm on the internet, right? I'm coming for you. Okay.
All right, let's transition a little bit to the Major League Baseball. I don't know how much time y'all want to spend on this. In my opinion, the Braves are out. I have not watched this. Go.
What? So without what? San Francisco won last night. They won the Game 7. What? They had to win 3 in a row to make it there. The Tigers swept the Yankees. I really don't know. It seems like both offenses are really doing their job. The pitching staff for the Tigers seems a lot better. Doesn't necessarily seem a lot better than the one for the Giants, but they have been pitching better. Who am I thinking of? If Lincecum comes on, then it's going to be a really hard series to necessarily determine. Are we taking picks?
I mean,
sure.
You've got to think Verlander's good for 2 wins. He's 3-0. He has a .74 ERA in the playoffs. He is unbeatable at the moment. Based on what they've done so far, you've got to think that's 2 wins in the Giants column right there, possibly 3 if it's a 7-game series. Everyone kind of is on board with the Giants because we haven't seen the Tigers play in a little bit. But I got to think Tigers in like 6.
I'm going to take the Tigers because Chris Posey is a San Francisco 49ers fan.
You're just upset because he's crushing you in your fantasy league.
He is crushing me. Like, who has Steven Jackson and Frank Gore and is the #1 scoring team in the league? That makes no sense. I'm sorry. He also has RG3 and Percy Harvin, but,
yeah.
I would just like to say the following about Major League Baseball. Hey, MLB umps, fuck you, all right? Listen. An infield fly rule can only be called when it's in the fucking infield. Who calls an infield fly rule when you're 50 feet away from the infield? Oh, I thought it was going to be in the infield. You're an idiot. Okay, I'll take the Tigers in 7. I think Verlander gets MVP and wins 3 games in the series.
What about you, Sean?
I'm taking the Tigers also, but I'll give them 5, man.
Yeah.
If Verlander gets a quick 2, I think Scherzer can give them another one, and then they just have to eke out another game, man.
All right. I think it's time for us to move on to the start of the NBA. We've had some movement, but... Wait. There's more. Wait.
Overrated, overhyped superstar in my history in this business.
Who? LeBron? I'm sorry, what?
Do you have a Skip Bayless soundboard?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
It's certainly not winning an
Really?
NBA World Championship.
That's strange.
Not only is this series
Really, Stephen A. That's interesting.
How do you spell the name of Oklahoma City's star? U-R-A-N-T.
Right.
You got to get rid of the D because Oklahoma City doesn't play.
They didn't.
You got to get rid of the U because he plays for Miami. He doesn't
Right.
play for Oklahoma City. So what does that leave you? That leaves you with Rant.
Right.
What is that? R-A-N-T. What is that? Rant. Give it to me! Yeah! Give it to me! Yeah! Give it to me! Again! Yeah! What's Miami trying to build?
Wait, one time.
Right now! Tell us how our Astros taste!
All right. If you're not aware, I am a huge Miami Heat fan. We have the chip. We are the most dominant NBA team in the history of NBA basketball. That's just my opinion. But let's talk seriously, though. I had to play that. I just have to. Right now, Miami's the favorite, but clearly the story is the Lakers out west with Dwight Howard, Sands, Joel, and Mule. What do you guys think about the Lakers, Howard, and what's happening in the NBA in terms of the changing of players and everything? Joe?
Well, I think the Lakers are really interesting as a team because everybody looks at them and they think they've got all-stars at almost every position, but they've got some old all-stars at different positions. I mean, I don't know that Nash is going to be the full-time starter there. The question is how many games does he start for them, and how much does he play in those games? If Nash starts the majority of the games there and plays the majority of the minutes and is doing a good job, they will be really hard to beat. But at some point, Kobe's skills are going to start declining. They've already started declining. His clutch numbers aren't as good as they used to be. To me, what's really interesting about that team is they almost immediately become Dwight Howard's team. And this is a referendum on Howard. He's looked good in the game that he played so far, in spite of the fact the Lakers haven't won a single game in preseason. But I'm real hesitant about thinking that preseason means anything. I'm fascinated. I think the West is fascinating. You've got Oklahoma City, which still seems to be kind of on the come, but can't figure out how to play defense and doesn't have much of a low post presence. And then you've got the Lakers, who do play really good defense, have a big low post percentage, but I'm not sure if they can run with Oklahoma at all. So, and that's just two teams in the West. I think it's really interesting. I think the Heat have a much clearer path in the East, but they're incredibly vulnerable to injury. So we'll see what happens. You've got to think the Heat are the favorites until someone proves otherwise. But the West is really, really interesting, and I don't think anyone else in the East is really going to challenge the Heat very much.
Quick point on the Lakers. I think that and no one else is playing any defense other than Dwight Howard. You still have to guard out on the wings. I don't really trust Gasol. And with that, I don't think that they're necessarily going to be able to score the points that everybody else thinks they're going to do, unless it becomes Dwight Howard's team and Kobe has to, actually have shot selection, actually not try to take it all every time he gets the ball. The thing that you didn't mention, Bellon, that I thought was interesting about the West is the Spurs.
Yep.
I remember being on that bandwagon last year when they won, 20 games in a row, and they were looking like they were going to take it to the Thunder. This team retooled with young players. They made sure that their big three didn't have to take a whole lot of minutes, and then they were able to win games and score a lot of points. Weren't they up there in points on the season?
Yep. Yeah, no, they were one of the highest scoring teams in the league.
And so, I don't know. That's super interesting for me. I don't know about the point about the Heat being injury prone. I don't know if I can believe that as much. They proved last year that without Bosh, they can still do it. At other points, they proved that without Dwayne Wade, they can still do it. Basketball is a five-man game, and really by the end of it, there's only one ball. And as long as you can give that ball to LeBron James, I think the Heat have a decent chance at the championship.
My thing about, I think, the NBA season, listen, I think the Lakers are overrated. I think Dwight Howard is overrated. This reminds me of when the Lakers put together that Hall of Fame team of Gary Payton, Karl Malone, Shaq, and Kobe Bryant. And everybody thought that team was going to win 75 games. And they got housed by the Detroit Pistons because the Pistons were a better team. The Heat clearly can ill afford to sustain an injury, especially to LeBron, because saying him, that team's like a third seed in the East. But as currently constructed, I don't see anybody competing with them. Maybe Boston, maybe the Nets because of the influx of talent. You got Williams, you got Joe Johnson, who's now the number 2. That team may be able to run a little bit.
I live in Atlanta. You know not to trust Joe Johnson.
Listen. I didn't say Joe Johnson by himself. I said there was a legitimate player in Aaron Williams that can probably facilitate. But I'm not saying they're going to beat the Heat. Listen, a lot of people think that when Rose comes back, yes, he's done very nice commercials of him winking and high-fiving the fans. What you don't see is he's walking on a treadmill when that commercial's coming on. Look, the OKC is not going anywhere. Dwight Howard has had all kinds of fits with what's the center for Oklahoma City? Perkins. Mm-hmm. Listen, those two teams right now I think are clearly head and shoulders above the rest. And Sean hit it right on the head. You can't have a team of Steve Nash, Pau Gasol, and Antoine Jamison as part of your starting rotation and expect you can defend on a perimeter and Bosh can get to everything. I'm sorry, Howard can get to everything. So it's still the Heat's to lose. Look, the Heat can trot out a lineup of LeBron, Wade, Bosh, and Ray Allen out there shooting threes with, I'm assuming, Chalmers, I guess, at point, or they may want to bring Rashad Lewis off the bench. They have shooters. This Miami team is what we're going to think Miami should have been when they first got constructed. I think Miami is going to be very dominant. Joe believes that the Atlanta Hawks are going to be the 4 seed, so we'll let him finish.
6.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that above the Knicks?
Oh, I don't know about the Knicks.
Okay.
I don't know about the Knicks. The Knicks are a crapshoot to me. Look, let me just insert. Let me channel Joel Lemuel for just a second.
Okay.
Here's what he would say if he were here with us. He would say, and he has said publicly, that the reason that the Lakers are so dangerous to the Heat is that Dwight Howard historically is what Joel describes as LeBron James kryptonite, and Howard represents the thing that the Heat don't have, which is a serious presence down on the boards, and there's essentially no one on the Heat that can guard him. And when you combine that with Kobe shooting even as well as he did last year, let alone, Kobe of old. And Gasol being able to not have to be the guy down low and going out to a more natural spot for him on the baseline, on the perimeter, then that's a team that, while it's not going to run with the Heat, can defend well enough to keep the Heat from running and really lock down the half-court game and almost play delay and beat the Heat that way.
Are we saying the same Dwight Howard, whose Orlando Magic got housed by the Atlanta Hawks while he's being guarded by Jason Collins?
Yeah,
are we referring to that?
That's an irrelevant argument, though. Like, matchups make fights, and Dwight didn't match up well with us in the same way that the Celtics didn't match up well with us for a bunch of times. That doesn't mean the Hawks were good. That doesn't mean the Celtics were bad. It's just a matchup situation. The people that are Lakers fans will say that the Lakers match up really, really well against the Heat because they are strong in areas that the Heat are weak. I don't know that I agree with that, but I think if you're going to say that the Heat beat the Lakers if the Lakers make it out of the West, you have to at least consider that argument.
No, I mean, I respect that argument, but I think the inverse of that is also true. I don't know who Dwight Howard is going to guard if Bosh takes the ball out to the three-point line. I don't like the fact that they're pretty much giving LeBron James a pass on defense if he gets to guard Gasol out there on the three-point line also. I think that if you're going to beat the Heat, you have to make them work on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, who guards LeBron? Is it Gasol? That seems like a recipe for disaster.
It's Meta World Peace Our Test Man. Like,
oh, geez, no. Look, if they put
Hold on, y'all have dropped out. The last thing I heard was Antoine Jameson guarding LeBron.
That's probably why I dropped out. I think Skype was like, "That's absurd," and it ended the conversation.
No way, that's possible.
I mean, has he ever played defense ever?
No.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
Oh. I'm actually excited for the NBA. I haven't been this excited for the NBA in a while. I think there's a bunch of intriguing storylines. There's even intriguing storylines in the West. The Nets are kind of an intriguing storyline. What happens to Dwight Howard after this year is an intriguing storyline. There's a lot of stuff going on at the West. You're right. The Spurs are an interesting team. I really thought they were going to get. I thought they weren't getting nearly as much respect as they should have at the end of the year last year. But then, if you listen to Popovich's speech at the end of the series they lost, I think he was right that they overachieved. But his teams do that, and so. There's a lot of really great storylines in the NBA for me. I'm much more interested in it this year than I have been recently.
Anybody buying into the Clipper talk that the Clippers are going to make a run at the NBA title or the NBA Finals?
I mean,
anybody buying that?
They're a decent team, yeah.
Sure.
I mean, the West isn't super. Well, no, the West is deep with those top three teams, but I think on any given night, the Clippers have enough young talent, athleticism, and just like Wake Forest. I'm sorry, Chris Paul is going to work somebody. You saw that before when he was playing for the Hornets against those Lakers. I mean, he's able to run the pick and roll, and at any given night he can lob the ball to Blake Griffin. It makes for an interesting matchup. I don't know who they're playing any defense with, but they can score points with the best of them.
Listen, man, look, if you get Marvin Williams, you don't need Chris Paul.
Dude, I actually read an article the other day about how Marvin Williams has experienced a career renewal where, and that he's now going to be a great player. I would love to see that happen.
Yeah, my ass. Is anybody buying the talk that the Hawks could conceivably bring in Chris Paul and Dwight Howard next year? Does anybody see that?
Why would they go to the Hawks?
Where did that talk come from?
That's Atlanta talk. That's Atlanta talk. Broussard said that?
Yes, Broussard has an entire article because of the fact that the Hawks have so much expiring contracts. They can sign two max guys to go with Josh and Al Horford. That is insanity if, like a workout tape, if I've ever heard it. But does either one of you buy that the Hawks can do that, or will the Hawks pull another Joe Johnson to give a max contract to, Harden?
The Hawks don't have owners. It's hard for me to imagine that a superstar comes to Atlanta believing that the structure exists there to take them to a championship when we don't have owners. Yeah, and we have no history of being the kind of franchise in the last 10 years at the very least that can win an NBA championship. Admittedly, Atlanta's a great town if you're an NBA superstar, but I just can't. That's insane to me. That's insane talk.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see him doing it. Yeah, I don't even need to say any more than that.
No, I think that's a 3-0 for the Hawks not getting one. Joe, we've sent you a link to what we feel is one of the funniest knockouts we've ever seen in history. We want you to take a look at it. For those of you who are Joe Bellon is looking up this fight, this past weekend, I am a huge boxing fan. Joe Bellon believes he knows boxing.
I don't believe that at all.
No, you don't. Garcia and Eric Morales fought this weekend at the new Barclays Center, or as I like to call it, Jay-Z's second home. Put on a pretty good card. There were some good fights. There were a couple of boring fights. But at the end, Garcia lands a left hook that seems to cause Eric Morales to have a change of religion about his life. And when you watch the fight, you can go to your favorite World Star Hip Hop type little site and watch it. When you see the knockout, the left hand hits Eric Morales so hard that he spins one way and then converts to God and spins the other way and then lands on his ass. And one of the funniest knockouts.
Don't forget that.
Outside of the ring. You could not have done this on a video game. It was that impressive. We're waiting for Joe Bellon to see it.
I'm trying to watch it right now. All right, hold on.
Wait for it. Okay.
There's the jab.
But in my opinion, that might be the... Yep.
There's the jab. Oh, that was the wrong move. He did appear to encounter some sort of spiritual force halfway through that circuit. Well, and then he goes WWE and falls out of the ring.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's a good point. That's something you will see in the WWE. Almost
what
impossible.
Did he hit that changed his momentum back to the other direction?
I don't know.
We're not sure.
Takes him this way, and then he went back that way.
Very clearly, there was a time traveler wearing some sort of invisibility suit, standing in the ring to watch the fight better, not realizing he was about to get hit by a boxer. Wow, look at that. And the guy with the camera turns around after the dude is hanging out of the ring to take close-ups of his most humiliating moment. That's rough. That's harsh. Listen, that's one of the funniest. That's one of the funniest knockouts I've ever seen in a professional.
Listen, I've already petitioned MythBusters to prove that knockout occurred because it defies physics.
It's the magic
you have to understand
bullet.
The left hook by nature forces him to go this way. You're not looking at the screen, but it forces him to go to his left, and it's almost as if he says, "God has told me I must come back and must fall this way." And it is in my opinion, it's the funniest knockout I've ever seen. Floyd Mayweather had one versus Ricky Hatton where he lands a check hook where Ricky Hatton then gets knocked unconscious, falls into the ring rope, and then lands on his ass. That one was also hysterically funny. There's another one we're throwing into the ring, Joe. Have you seen the bus driver uppercut?
Yes, I have seen the bus driver uppercut is pretty sweet. The most impressive thing about that video, though, is that girl gets back up again after having just been haymade off the bus, which I'm pretty sure that if anyone hit me hard enough that I flew up in the air like that, flew off the bus, I wouldn't get back up again to come talk crap about the person that had hit me. That was cool. The crack is whack. Yeah, Lita Crack.
She has a career in amateur boxing for sure. Because that was the cleanest uppercut I've ever seen.
Oh, and that was a Fred Sanford windup that he did. He did the Fred Sanford windup. She doesn't see it coming. He hits her clean with the massive haymaker. She flies backwards out the bus, and then the next second, well, after all, it takes the audience to go, "That was a girl," and he's like, "I don't care." And then she gets back up and is talking crap to him. That was amazing. That's an amazing video.
We do not condone hitting women or anything on this podcast. Please understand that. But for those of you who've all seen it, you've all laughed at it. So don't come on here posting on here like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he hit." Listen, you went to the same website we did and started laughing too. But the point is that it defies physics. I've literally been at work studying how humanly possible it is for force to go one way and then it goes the opposite way without anything causing it to go the other way. It's absurd. I can't figure it out.
What's interesting about that clip, too, is he misses he tries hard. He hits a roundhouse at his opponent. I don't know who it is. Misses his opponent. right? So he's already got momentum going in that direction. But then his opponent hits him with the left hook, and that should have spun him the other direction, but it doesn't. There's this incredible delay between the time that the left hook hits him and he starts coming back around in the direction of the left hook. It's crazy. But that is great. The fact that he goes out of the ring and in slow-mo you can see the photographer turn the telephoto lens. Oh, hello. Allow me to take a picture of you laying outside of the ring. That's a great
Listen,
moment.
there are people's grandmothers who don't dance as good as Eric Morales did in that ring when the gospel comes on. That's how hard he got hit. All right.
The thing that was missing in that clip was Smokey coming in and saying, "You got knocked the fuck out!" Like,
yes.
No, you definitely needed one of the old professional wrestling like managers to be like, Mean Gene or one of those guys to be over.
Mean Gene would have been a good call for
He
that.
been like, this is an outrage.
Yes. No.
bear.
Yeah.
This. I thought Roy Jones Jr. said it the best. He got rubber stamped, or he got veto stamped, is what Roy Jones said, and he got veto stamped. That's for damn sure. Let's finish up with a little bit of college football talk. Myself, Joe Bellon, here at Georgia State University. The Fighting Panthers currently 1-7.
Not so fighting.
Sean Ridley. So what?
Not so fighting.
Not so fighting. That is true. Sean Ridley is at App State. Sean, what is App State's record? 1-7.
Don't ask me that question, man. That's D2 football. I love App State.
That's a common question.
But no, man, we played like Wofford last week and lost. I could care less.
All right, moving on. So, with that being said, we've got an interview with Ben Moore coming up soon. That'll be posted out there for you guys to listen to. But let's talk about major college football for a second. Is it Alabama and everybody else, or is there another threat out there for Alabama?
It's Alabama and everybody else. I mean, who else is in the SEC? Who else plays?
Florida.
Yeah, but Florida doesn't look like Alabama. What I'm saying
How dare you say that when Neil Blackman is near you?
Well, Neil Blackman will say they don't look like Alabama either. Neil's not a crazy man, at least unless it comes to American soccer, and then he is crazy. But there's no one that looks like Alabama who plays the kind of competition that Alabama plays. And their path in the West is a lot clearer this year than it has been in the past. I don't know who can beat them, and it's not because I'm an SEC homer. I think the SEC is kind of having an off year in a lot of ways, but who can? I can't think of an argument for why someone else would be favored above them at this point.
I mean, they still have to play LSU at the end of the season. Anything can happen in the football game. In terms of the other top 5 teams, I don't think that any of them necessarily have the balance that Alabama has, let alone the dominance of their defense. Like, Florida's defense has been pretty great this season. It's definitely sustained them throughout, but their offense is not up to par at all. Who else do we have in there? We have Oregon, who... yeah, they can put 60, 70 points up on the board, but I don't think Alabama's going to let them do that. And I don't think that their defense is going to stop Alabama's offense, which, when you talk about the SEC, normally you think of them being, not necessarily slow, but it's defense-driven. And I don't think that that's true with this Alabama team. They're putting it together, they're putting points on the board, and they're letting their defense dictate to other teams, which makes their offense a lot easier. I mean, the dark horses are Notre Dame, who I don't really believe, and maybe Kansas State, but they still got to prove themselves. It's really hard just to, just say these people who I'll admit I haven't seen a game of, who are playing great right now, are going to be able to take down Alabama, who is a proven winner.
If you're a betting man, do you call Alabama? Who do you call in the finals against Alabama?
That's the better question.
Is it USC? Is it Kansas State? Is it who is it?
Oregon. I'll take Oregon. If we're calling for who plays them in the finals, it's Oregon. My opinion. I think Notre Dame, however, is an interesting question because of, one, it's Notre Dame. It's kind of the revival story. Can you imagine the amount of media attention Notre Dame will get if they go into USC, which is their last game of the season, and beat USC? How would anyone deny Notre Dame of a number 2 ranking in the polls? I think if Notre Dame goes undefeated and Oregon's undefeated, I think Notre Dame gets in. But I think the best team outside of Alabama is probably Florida, and we'll get to see how they match up against them. It appears probably in the SEC championship game. stranger things have happened in the SEC. The better question is, Alabama is so far ahead of everyone else. If Florida beats them in the SEC title game, does Alabama fall out of the number 2 slot?
No.
Well, no. What's Oregon's strength of schedule going to be like at the end of the year?
Oregon, I just looked at this. Oregon still has to play USC. They still have to play Stanford, and they have to play another team that's in the top 10. I think that the team that honestly has the best chance of making it is Kansas State, because all they have left is to play Texas. Now, that becomes a question of the BCS and the computers and all this other stuff. But in terms of teams that they have to play and the chances of still being undefeated, Kansas State, man.
It's really tragic that this is not the beginning of the +1 year. This would be a great +1 year.
Yes.
Yeah.
This would be an awesome +1 year.
I want to see these teams go at it.
I have to say, I am personally depressed that Notre Dame is playing this well. My father, I was raised to hate Notre Dame. My father never uttered a racist word against a black person or an Asian person or Hispanic person in his life, but he taught me more racial slurs against Irish people and Catholic people than anyone should ever have a right to know. I was raised to hate Notre Dame. And
all because of Notre Dame? That's some serious thing.
My father had a powerful hate for Notre Dame, and I was raised to believe that Notre Dame was evil. And my father passed this summer, and I certainly wish he was still here. But if he was, he'd be apoplectic at how well Notre Dame is doing it right now. You got to feel like I always felt like God was too afraid to let Notre Dame do well while Dad was still alive for fear of upsetting him. But now he's passed. They're doing well. I can only hope that Notre Dame's heart gets broken. I almost wish Notre Dame would end up in the BCS final game with Alabama just to watch Notre Dame get crushed.
That might be the cruel irony of all of this.
That might be the coolest irony, is that they will get smoked if they play Notre Dame.
But the problem with that is, and this should be a somewhat of a concern for BCS fans in general, is that if Notre Dame doesn't lose a couple of games, it doesn't matter if they win the BCS championship or not. People are going to be back on top of this Notre Dame, the greatness of Notre Dame myth, and we're going to have to live with them forever again.
No, we are. I'd be remiss
going anywhere.
Yeah, I'd be remiss before we get out of here. We haven't had a chance to talk about Penn State after the entire scandal. Let me pull them up. I don't know what their record is right now. But it seems like Notre Dame is kind of weathered. They've had a couple of transfers. I think Notre Dame is going to come out of this.
You mean Penn State?
Football-wise.
You mean Penn State?
Let's not talk about anything else, but just football-wise.
Well, whoever I forget the coach's name, but they ought to give him a raise right now. I know Penn State's not famous for paying a lot for their coaches, and some of that's just because of who Paterno was and how he lived his life. But it's an amazing story that they aren't just getting crushed all the time this year. And
they're 5-2, 3-0 in the Big Ten.
Say what you
want. 5-2?
Yeah. And they were 0-2 to start off.
Yeah, that's what I remember. I thought that continued.
Well, and say what you want to about the university and Sandusky and all that. It's not the fault of the kids that were there. It's not the fault of anyone who's still associated with the football team. And I'm happy for them. I'm happy that those kids have something good happening to them. And whatever they're paying their coach, it's not enough.
The biggest story there is that there hasn't been a story. Yep. The coach has been able to keep them out of the news. There hasn't been any further trouble. And they're back to being able to focus on football games, which apparently they're winning. Yep. And so once that happens, that's far beyond any expectations, because you expect some kind of repercussions. You expect that once they start losing a few games, there's going to be some fissures. People are going to start asking them questions. Are you going to make it without Paterno? I haven't heard Joe Pa's name in some time, and the fact that has happened, pretty amazing.
Yep.
I don't think I could have said it any better myself. The fact that all you hear about with Penn State right now was football. Not the craziness of Jerry Sandusky, not the tragedy, I don't know if that's for the end of the life of Joe Paterno, but it's football. Like they have the chance to win the Big Two. Imagine if Penn State goes to the Rose Bowl as a Big Ten champion. After everything this offseason's been like, imagine that story.
They can't.
Of them going to the Rose Bowl.
They can't. They cannot go to the Rose Bowl. They are banned
Oh,
from
that's
postseason
right.
play.
Oh yeah,
That would be an incredible story
Everything
if they
that's-
went to the Rose Bowl, because it would mean the NC2A
You know what?
completely
But I guess,
changed their
but think
mind.
about it like this though. Look at it this way: if they go 9-3,
Yeah.
like it's still one of those things. You're just like, that's amazing. They're gonna win 9-3.
It's amazing
But-
they're 5-2.
right.
But, yeah,
They've lost scholarship players. They've lost the entire coaching staff. They're still winning football games.
Yep.
impressive. If only UGA had a good enough coaching staff like that, maybe they'd win some games. Joe, Sean, final thoughts on sports? Anything you've seen that you wanted to rant about? Anything that you thought about when it came to any sport? You're like, you know what, this gets on my damn nerves. What's something that gets on your damn nerves about sports right now?
Try, Bellon.
Well, it's funny
We
about
lose him?
this.
Joe?
No, I'm still
Joe?
here. Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me? I've lost you guys for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Look, I think this is funny, Eric. You and I called this a long time ago, a number of podcasts ago, when we said that they ought to put Stephen A. Smith on or whatever it is now, First Take, permanently, so that it would be clear that show is nothing but theater. And they did that, and it is nothing but theater. But that hasn't made it any better. I was really hoping that after they got taken down, that they would have a moment of reflection and that show would change. And it's now completely unwatchable. It's not funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a pop culture touchstone anymore. It's unwatchable. And ESPN should be ashamed of themselves. They're rapidly turning into kind of the douchebag network when it comes to their coverage of sports. And that show kind of leads the way. If I had a magic wand to wave, I would get rid of that show. It needs to go the way of CNN's old Crossfire show. It's hurting America, in the immortal words of Jon Stewart, and it needs to go. Listen,
I'll let Sean go last, but the thing that I wanted to end on that's gotten on my nerves, Roger Goodell should be fired. We talked about Roger kind of being on the right side of protecting the Shield when his story first came out. Now he looks terrible. And he's even getting blamed for the referees, even though the owners are the ones that probably propped up the Goodell to not have the referees in. But Goodell looks bad. He's got players coming out. He's the commissioner when former NFL players are suing because of concussions. People are blaming him for, essentially crippling the New Orleans Saints with no evidence. The Packer fans are berating him because of the fact that you get the real referees into the game after the Monday night debacle, which clearly showed that replacement refs were not very good. I will make this proclamation right now. Roger Goodell will be the scapegoat for everything that, if you protect the Shield, then you've got to fire the thing that makes the Shield look bad. And I think that he will end up getting fired because he is the only negative that is happening versus vis-a-vis the Shield. But Roger Goodell has looked terrible, and he should be fired. He should be fired, and the Major League Baseball umpire should be fired, calling a fucking infield fly rule in the goddamn outfield.
Hey, Eric, I have a question for you about that, though, because if this becomes a thing, we'll definitely have to come back to this issue. But there's a difference between whether he should be fired because he deserves it, and he will be fired because the owners are going to make him a scapegoat. Is it one of those, or is it both of those?
I think he should be fired. I think he will be fired because I think there's going to be the risk that a massive lawsuit is going to come from the Saints, particularly the players. There's already lawsuits now. But now you've got Cortez Kennedy coming out and saying Goodell fabricated evidence that claimed that he said that there was a hit on Brett Favre in that infamous game. And I think that if that becomes a bigger issue and there are more lawsuits pertaining to this and pertaining to how he deals with punishment of NFL players, I think that at some point Goodell's kind of controversy, kind of in the same way as the cyclist Lance Armstrong kind of recused himself from Nike and from the cancer charity in that same way, because he now becomes a distraction to the NFL as opposed to being the guy behind the shield to make sure the shield looks bright, spotless, and clean.
My only question is, where is the elite quarterback play in the NFL? This time last year, we had 4 quarterbacks going for record numbers, making all kinds of touchdowns. And this year, we haven't seen it. In the immortal words of one of my friends, Bo Stanley, I miss the lockout. All right? This is where you could put up points, where teams were getting blown out, and you can actually depend on a quarterback. All right? As a 49ers fan, I know that I have no right saying anything about the quarterback position whatsoever. But at the same time, I'm not really seeing it, man. Defenses have really stepped up. I've liked that about the NFL. There are more young defenses. And from that, I don't know. It seems like the year of the quarterback is definitely over, and we're finally seeing old school football again.
Well, here's a question. There's somebody talking on the football league. Let me get this in real quick. Who's the MVP of the NFL right now?
Elon.
Who?
Elon Manning. I'll admit it.
Who is it? I'm sorry. I seriously didn't hear you.
Manning.
But, okay, Eli Manning.
Oh, okay.
I thought I was getting like a Mike Jones situation.
No.
I don't want to say that any more time.
Right now it's Matt Ryan.
Yeah. I mean, no huddle offense, being able, yeah.
Right now it's Matt Ryan.
Who you got, Mathis?
I think if Houston, I'll go. It's probably going to be a quarterback, probably Matt Ryan, maybe Eli Manning, but J.J. Watts has been fucking awesome right now down in Houston. I might consider him. He's definitely the defensive player of the year.
Yep.
So, what about dark horse Percy Harvin?
No, if there was a dark horse, I would go with.
If you're not the best player on your team, you can't win.
Sure. I mean, he gets more looks than anybody else, and he's probably getting the same amount of catches as AP, and he's definitely changing the game more. Like, AP is just doing his job.
Yeah, that's true.
Sure. Yeah, sure. It's not. When I say his name, it's going to seem odd as a dark horse, but Peyton Manning.
That's not odd.
If they constantly keep coming back in the second half, if they constantly always come back in the second half and win football games, he's going to be looked at like the quarterback who does the most. He's going to look like how he does when Indianapolis goes 12-4 with that team with nobody on it.
Yeah, I don't think he is the MVP, but if you want to make that argument, the way you say it, I think, is when Tebow was playing at Denver, we all said, well, it's amazing how well Tebow's doing because they don't have any wide receivers. Well, then Manning shows up, and what do you know? They actually have some wide receivers. You know, to me, that's a real argument for why he might be the MVP.
No, I think I agree with all of those things. Well, I think we've done an admirable job of covering sports. If anything, we've proven that 3 debaters actually know what debate is. This is the Missed on Point podcast. For myself, Joe Bellon, Sean, you've got to come back, man.
I got to do this. This is fun, actually.
Yeah.
We will definitely do this. Maybe we'll take this on the road. Absolutely. But on behalf of myself, Sean Ridley, and Joe Bellon, this is the Missed on Points podcast. We will see you all next week with Rapid Fire.